This is Justin.
And this is Haley, and you're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize conversations about money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Today we are talking to Sarah Wilson, aka Budget Girl. She is pretty famous. I mean, I felt really cool talking to her. She's a YouTuber, blogger, real estate investor. I mean, she's passionate about multiple streams of income. She has a lot of stuff going for her, so I'm really excited to introduce her to our audience.
Yeah, I'm excited just because she's somebody that comes from very humble start.
Yeah.
And I guess a very humble start. And she's worked really hard to get where she is.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting getting to talk to her and hear about how she worked her way to get where she is and how she truly believes that people can get there. But she also is very honest about the fact that she got lucky through doing it all. And it took a lot of hard work and a lot of time. And it was just great getting to talk to her. It was really, really cool. And she's, yeah, like you said, famous on YouTube, like 94,000 subscribers. That's incredible.
A lot of people.
Yeah. All right, you guys, today we are sitting down with Sarah from Budget Girl. Sarah, thank you so much for taking some time on your Sunday afternoon to chat with us.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here.
I saw that you were on Bigger Pockets podcast, like in the early days.
Yeah. I think I was episode 6 or 7 of Bigger Pockets Money, and I've had the absolute honor of being back 2 times since then. They've checked in with me every once in a while, and that's just so cool because everyone there is incredibly helpful, and it's just like having aunts and uncles and just really trustworthy people in your family that know money that are always willing to be like, all right, honey, come on, I'll help you out with that, or maybe you should try this. It's fantastic. I love that community.
That's awesome. So this is not your first podcast rodeo.
No, I've been on a few.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on to ours. I'm really excited to share you with our audience. I'm sure a lot of people already follow you, but if you don't follow Sarah, you have to go follow her adventures because she's got a lot going on. But can you just start by telling us who you are and a little bit about everything that you do?
Absolutely. So my name's Sarah Wilson. I go by the moniker Budget Girl on the internet, and I've been documenting my personal finances for a little over 7 years, actually. So it started when I had $33,000 worth of student loan debt. I had just gotten laid off from the newspaper that I worked at, and I was absolutely terrified. Because there's that giant debt hanging over your head. I was on unemployment. I didn't know how I was going to pay that debt back. I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. And I swore as soon as I got a new job, I was going to fix this money thing and figure it out. So I got a new job. I was only making $1,600 a month at a newspaper in Louisiana where I knew no one. And I paid off $10,000 that first year and continued to do that for the next 3 years. I built up my community on YouTube, on the channel Budget Girl, and eventually added in some socials. And it's just been an absolute blast. So I paid off my debt in 3 years and 3 months. I then saved up a big old honking emergency fund. I bought a duplex. So now I'm in the real estate space a little bit. I do some investing, and I recently have renovated a vintage travel trailer that I'm going to be turning into a short-term rental. So I'm just I love multiple streams of income and talking about money and building wealth.
I think all of that is awesome. And I think one of the really important things to make note of, Sarah, is you didn't come from having a particularly high salary when all of this started. It's not like you were set ahead on this like golden pathway and that things were easy. I mean, you just shared that you were making $1,600 a month and you paid off $10,000 in the first year, which is like about as frugal as a human being can get. And that's
there were
just
a lot of side hustles.
Yeah, that's just impressive. Like, shout out to you for being able to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not a great place to start making about $26,000 a year pre-tax and having more than that in student loans, but you get there. And I was able to get some salary increases over the time. After a couple of years, I moved to a $30,000 a year job, and now I make about 50 grand. So it's a really cool thing about managing your money is that you end up figuring out ways to increase it when you're really watching those pennies and dollars. So, and I've seen that every single time with people I've coached and people I've talked with. It's a really, really cool phenomenon.
That's got to be exciting too to see how it's just transformed over the years. I know that for us, like looking back on our debt-free journey, we're only a little over 2 years in, and it's, just every single month we're like, wow, I can't believe this. 2 years ago we were drowning in debt, and then like to see how it all transforms is really cool. So I'm just thinking like 4 years from now, when we're 6 years in, what does that look like for us? And that's just got to feel good for you as well to be like, look at all I've accomplished.
Yeah. And it always goes so much faster than you think it's going to. If you do those projections at the very beginning, which I'm really glad I didn't until I was a ways in, because it would have put me like, I would still be in debt based on my original projections, my original income. The thing is that I consider money mastery kind of like a muscle, and you build it up as you go, and you just get so much better at it from all sides. And then your journey goes faster, so much faster than you can imagine.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had originally talked with our financial coach, and he was like, we had told him we have a goal to, get out of debt within like 4 years. And he was like, you guys, you're going to do it way faster than that. And we were like, really? And he was like, yes, you'll be surprised. Like,
and it was less than a year.
Yeah.
After that. So it's just kind of crazy once your mindset starts to shift, I mean, everything can just transform. And it starts to so fast, like compound interest. It's like one thing happens and then it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
So you have a ton of followers on YouTube. So I hope that I'm not offending you by saying it. Certainly seems that YouTube is your lane. And you've been on YouTube for quite some time. Can you talk us through kind of your journey as starting as a YouTuber?
Sure. So YouTube was the first thing I started, like with the whole public facing money front. And like I said, I had just moved to Louisiana to start this new job. I didn't know anyone in the area. And I decided that my hobby was going to be getting out of debt. So that meant taking on extra jobs, figuring out side hustles. And I didn't know anyone in the area. And all of my like long distance friends, I knew that I was going to drive them nuts if I just wanted to talk about money all the time. So I started a YouTube channel. And at the time, there were only a couple of people online talking about money, honestly. There was His and Her Money, which is still at it and doing amazing. There's Lydia Sin from Frugal Debt Free Life. And there was a channel called Debt is Dumb that's no longer around. But it was three couples, essentially, dual income, making a lot more money than I was. And I didn't really feel represented in that space. Not that they weren't incredibly encouraging and inspirational, but I didn't see someone that I could be like, I relate to you. So I decided to start shooting myself. And when people started watching and told me that I couldn't do it on $1,600 a month, I started showing my budget every month. And that's where my whole transparent money thing comes about. And I still show my budget pretty much every single month on YouTube. And you can see how much I make, how much I spend, that I went to Taco Bell on Tuesday. All of that. And yeah, it's been really fun. And people have kind of come with me as I transitioned from paying off debt. And they were such amazing cheerleaders during that time. I actually used to put my debt amount in the title of every video. And so you could see how much that I had left and you could watch it as it was going down. I don't do that anymore, but I've now amassed a net worth of over 120,000. And that would just be kind of hard to do in every video. And yeah, it's been really incredible. And people have stuck with me as I started doing real estate investing and the renovations and all of that stuff. It's been fantastic.
Oh man, I really resonate with that, with our story and with our followers as well, because, we started so deep in debt and they were so strongly cheering for us the whole entire time. Like, sometimes I think they wanted it more than we wanted it. They were like, let's go. And then we paid our stuff off. And now I feel like whatever our next big move is, they're going to be so excited to be there. So you build that community with people. And then they watch you literally transform over the years, which is super cool. So that's obviously why you just hit 94,000 followers. That's so many. So congrats.
It is. It's a crazy amount. I mean, it's taken me a while to get there, but honestly, it's been fantastic. And the community's remained extremely close and tight knit. And yeah. I'm kind of glad I didn't like blow up like Graham Stephan, because that's really intimidating. It's just my peeps over there. Yeah. We're good.
Do you have plans for how you want to celebrate when you hit 100K?
I did like 2 years ago. And I just haven't gotten that much closer. So no, I do not. Okay. So this is how long I've been working towards 100K. Like around 75 or so, I was just like, hey, I might actually hit it. Like that might actually be a thing. And then like, the 100 balloons.
Yeah.
Like 100K balloons, that trend got created became stale and is now chuggy in the time that I have been trying to get to that milestone. So no plans currently. Yeah.
Fair enough. You're like, okay, if nothing else, the plans will not include the 100K balloons.
Yeah. I was like, oh, because I remember saying it, I should do that when I get to 100K. And fortunately, I never bought the balloons because it took me a lot longer.
That's okay. You've got devoted people.
Oh,
94,000 devoted people.
Wouldn't trade them for the world. Just like never count your chickens kind of situation.
Yeah, seriously.
The algorithm is a fickle bish.
I'm sure. I have to ask you a question about budgeting. So the name you go by is Budget Girl. On Instagram, it says that you are the queen of budgets. And I just wanted to ask you, do you have a preferred budgeting method? Like zero-based budgeting, budgeting by paycheck? What's your favorite?
I'm zero-based and I am a spreadsheet girl. So, I also talk about do whatever budget will work for you in your brain, but it has to work for you in your brain. I could not force myself to be an app budgeter if you paid me $100,000. I mean, I would try because that's a lot of money, but I do not think I could do it because I'm very particular. I like to write notes. I like to have my spreadsheets. And that was also not the type of person I was when I was younger either, but I just like the flexibility that spreadsheets provide. And then I can access it anywhere, that I can look at it on my phone.
Yes.
You can customize it.
We're kind of slowly going through that transformation as well. We've done apps and we're slowly, as we're realizing that we're out of debt and kind of building a little bit more of a net worth and like building our journey on wealth, that we need a different way of budgeting. And we are figuring out that the apps just aren't quite working for us. And we've been significantly more successful recently just using like a spreadsheet that we've created. I shouldn't say that Haley's created. Yeah.
You guys need one of my net worth trackers and I will gift that to you. It's
really thank you.
Yeah. Once you're out of debt and you're not tracking into a negative, you can see the monthly budget perspective is so much different than like an outside net worth perspective. When your monthly budget, you're looking at like how much is coming in, how much is going out. And it's so easy to get discouraged. And I used to beat myself up all the time over like the little monthly expenses like groceries or that, hey, I went over on gas and blah, blah, blah. But now I look at that monthly and then I export all of my data into a annual net worth tracker. And I see that I'm still growing every month because my investments are growing and my savings account balances are growing. So it's kind of a macro level versus a micro level. And it is, I tell people now all the time, I wish I'd started net worth tracking so much sooner because I would have seen even on months where I was beating myself up because I overspent on X, Y, or Z, or I didn't make as much as I planned. I was making so much more progress if I zoomed out a little.
We recently had Kate and Alex on our podcast a few weeks ago, and they were saying that it's hard to stay debt-free once you you have this goal to pay off X amount of dollars, and then you do it, and then you're like, okay, now what? And we've kind of had that come along too. We paid off a lot of debt, and then now I feel like, okay, well, what are we chasing now? Now what? But I think tracking your net worth would be a great now what? Like you have this thing and you're looking at it every month. Instead of slashing numbers off of a chart, you're adding to the bucket, essentially. So, Kate and Alex, I think you guys need a net worth tracker, too.
Yeah.
You can get them on my Etsy, by the way. They're less than $10.
Perfect.
I would also highly recommend you making some new money goals because like seeing the progress on a money goal like paying off debt is really motivational, as you guys know. And as soon as I finished that, I felt a little like kind of drifty and I started saving up for my emergency fund. Then I started saving for my down payment. Then I started saving for X, Y, or Z. And you can add in those other kind of boring things. Like I consider maxing out my 401k, which is an incredible privilege, but is not exciting at all.
Yeah.
Like I get no joy out of sending $500 a month to that sucker. None. Like future me will thank me, but no joy whatsoever. I guarantee you. And so I put in some like vacation savings and I put in, I extended my budget just a little bit at a time to account for the new freedom that I have of not having debt and also starting to work towards the things that I wanted next. So I usually now I'm saving for like my next real estate purchase, which is exciting to me. I get excited.
Very
I like
exciting.
watching that money grow.
Yeah, that stuff's super exciting. So I want to kind of transition here because you brought up Etsy a little bit. Now you're talking about real estate. You are, like you even said earlier in this interview, like a big fan of multiple streams of income. And I think that is massively important to growing wealth. And I think anybody that's growing wealth would probably suggest the same, that there's ways that are going to maximize that all. You have an awesome video on YouTube, so I won't ask you to recap that. I'll tell our listeners they have to go watch it because I thought it was great. But can you just
I can never remember all of them.
yeah, can you briefly talk about, and one of the income streams that I think is the most fascinating is your Etsy shop, because it really is about as passive as it gets, right? You build a thing and you make it, digestible and work for folks. And then, like you said in the video, you maybe have a couple tweaks or maybe a couple people that have to reach out and resolve some issues. But for the most part, it's incredibly passive. Can you speak a little bit more to like that Etsy idea as a creator?
Absolutely. So scrolling back just a little bit, multiple streams of income. Amazing. And I feel like when you're trying to get out of debt, you're picking up all of these little side hustles that are very time intensive because it's the easiest way to get money in fast and to deliver that money to your goals. And then once you kind of get out of debt and you have just a little bit less of that panic on your shoulders, a lot of people start to think, well, okay, what can I build? And you're used to doing all this work too, and that energy has to go somewhere. So you start to think, okay, what can I do that will make me more passive income? And I already had that a little bit with YouTube because, well, I have to churn out videos pretty much every week or else my YouTube income will drop dramatically. I earn off of all 700 something videos that I have, just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But that is a somewhat passive income source. Now, if I stop creating videos completely, I would still get some money trickling in from other videos that are getting viewed. I just wouldn't get as much from the main source, which is the newest videos in circulation. Etsy, however, is just the coolest stinking thing because if you're willing to put in all the time and effort at the beginning and create this digital product, and digital is very important there because if it's a product like a physical thing that you have to create, then you're going to have to keep doing that daily churn of if you want to 3D print a little box and sell it, then every time someone orders that box, you're going to have to 3D print it. You're going to have to ship it. You're going to have to the customer service, all of that. Digital items are really insanely amazing for passive income. So I have, like I said, the spreadsheet. So I have my budget spreadsheet. I have my net worth trackers. I have some printable budgets. And some printable like goal trackers on there, and everything's less than $10, but it's these digital files. And once I create those digital files, I can upload them. The purchaser can download them along with a little instruction packet, how to use them, how to do everything like that. I create some art for them and descriptions in Canva. And once it's live, people can just buy it at any time during the day and they download it. And unless they have some sort of issue, I never have to interact with them, which is fantastic. There's like automatic messages that go out, thanks for purchasing my item, rate me 5 stars, blah, 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 blah. And I think I've made like $17,000 this year.
Wow.
That's great.
Oh my gosh.
Or in the past, that might be in the past 2 years.
That's
but
amazing.
I looked at it not too long ago and that was just incredible. And I'm not saying in transparency, that anyone can go on Etsy and create that. I actually got featured in a BuzzFeed gift giving article last year, and that threw so much traffic my way.
That's great.
I made like $8,000 in the following months from that. But I know people who even have like much smaller shops that just a little bit gives them a couple $100 a month.
Totally.
And I really wish and I need to put more effort into creating digital products so that I can have those just in the background working for me. It's been really fantastic to get just like a check from Etsy every other week for something that I did the work for 2 years ago.
Yeah, super exciting. And I think what's really cool is, as somebody that is in the finance space anyways, you're somebody that probably enjoys building those deliverables. You're probably somebody that's like, I like working on this spreadsheet or, trying to maximize how this can be user efficient. And so once you've created it, if you're like, I can share this and make it a passive income stream, like you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
So I made these tools for me.
Yeah.
I made all of these tools for me. And once I perfected them, I put them on Etsy and built like an instructions guide on how to use them. And for quite a while, I was giving away and I still have a very basic budget template that's based off of the one that I've used for years on my website for free. And thousands of people have downloaded and used it. And then enough people were like, we need you to do like an instructions guide. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do an instructions guide, I'm going to need to charge for this.
Yeah.
And because that's a lot of work.
Totally.
And yeah. And so once I put it on Etsy, I was really flabbergasted. I thought it would just be like a couple of bucks here and there, but it's been a really nice income stream, and it got me very much more interested in passive, because like I mentioned, stocks and brokerage accounts and everything like that, those are passive. You put the money in, it grows. Boring. Etsy, very exciting for me because I can build more stuff that will make me more money.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I love this. So you have YouTube, Etsy, coaching, you have a blog, rental, give me the lowdown on all of these. How many streams of income do you have?
I haven't counted recently, because some it's like just a little bit every once in a while. I do coaching very rarely. I actually have a little plant pot making business that I do very, very rarely. It's just I like to mix the concrete colors and it's soothing. There are some things that I get money off of every once in a while, and then there are the more regular ones like YouTube sponsorships, rental, that kind of thing. So it's but it all adds up, and it sounds intimidating if you're coming off of like, oh, this person, you look at someone and they're like, how do they have so many? I built them one at a time.
Yeah.
Very, very slowly, if I'm being honest, because I also have a full-time job, which is the number one stream of income.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your W-2 job at, like you said, Texas A&M University. We had Travis Shelton from Meaning Over Money on the podcast, and we talked a lot about doing what's important. And sometimes for many people, they find value in work, and they find value in still doing these things, even if they have the option to like retire out. We were kind of speaking more about like the FIRE movement. I just kind of want to ask, like, do you see that yourself as sticking around in a W-2 job for long term as your YouTube continues to grow and as your like income streams continue to grow, and maybe your hands get a little bit busier with like a real estate investing thing? Like, what do you see long term for it?
So I almost always answer, or I always answer this question like, I really like my day job. And most of the time I really like my day job. I will say that the pandemic kind of changed some stuff because we got to work from home. And then we worked like half from home and half in the office. And the flexibility of that, I miss it so bad, especially with like real estate stuff, having to like they want us completely back in the office now in my college. They don't want us working from home at all under any circumstances. And it's just, and until that point where there's like no flexibility whatsoever, even though there used to not really be, I'm starting to think about that a little bit differently. I do enjoy the work that I do. And I enjoy, my employers treat me really, really well. But I do think maybe at some point I might have to just switch to the full-time entrepreneurial stuff. All that said, my W-2 income has been what I've used to buy like my duplex and qualify for my next property. I haven't had to use my side hustle income at all. That gets a little bit more complicated. I could, but that's been kind of nice to have that long-term employment to really qualify for like low rates and really easily be able to buy property.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Can I ask, is your duplex in Texas? Are you like local real estate investing? Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that makes it nice. You've got, a university right there that's probably always going to help you find good renters. And if you've got a short-term rental too, like you've got attractions of people wanting to come to College Station and stuff, like it's not going to be too difficult to make that work for you.
I also have mad respect for people who do like out-of-state rentals, but I really, really like being able to like keep an eye on my property and like, I mean, not like in my renters' faces, I swear. But if there's a problem, I want to be able to go look at it and try to fix it before I hire somebody else out to do it.
Yeah.
So same thing with my camper. I want to have it close so that I can kind of start the processes and perfect those of like cleaning it and doing the turnovers and stuff like that. I don't want it hours away where something could happen anywhere, but I want to be able to get to it. And
Totally.
eventually I will have to like release myself from that burden that I have put on myself. And I will hopefully have, too many irons in the fire to be able to micromanage them all. But right now we're micromanaging.
You certainly seem like somebody too who likes to stay busy. So I'm sure that like for right now, you're like, I like this like method of having my hand in a lot of different things and keeping myself like task driven and like goal oriented and stuff. So yeah, as it slowly builds, maybe you might have to be like, I got to be more hands off. But for right now, it probably works for you.
I can see it close in the future, but for now it's fun, and it's also cheaper, and like it's a learning experience to do it all myself. Like the camper reno has been a lot of learning stuff, and it's one of those like, well, I don't know everything I'm going to need for this, but I will by the end of it.
Yeah, that's
Looks like
exciting
fun for sure.
Yeah. So you're uploading YouTube videos every single week. Do they usually take you just like one day a week to film, or how much would you say you're having to invest your time into filming if you've got such a, an important audience and like, need to continue with content?
So I've actually taken the last 2 weeks off to work on the camper. It was painting, which kind of has to happen all at once. And that's been like an everyday thing. But I do have, I don't know, sometimes I film on my lunch break at work, and sometimes I film like on the weekends here. It doesn't take that long, and editing them takes a little bit longer. And the bigger stuff, like actual renovation videos, I usually outsource to a video editor, and that takes a long time to put together and do all the cuts and voiceovers and all that. But it's not that bad, honestly. The most recent video I did, I shot on my lunch break and edited during the next day's lunch break. So it can be easy or it can be hard depending on what type of video you're trying to make.
Do you ever get recognized in public?
A handful of times I have, and everyone's been really nice. I always am scared that I'm not nearly as entertaining in person. But I'm just like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And I'll generally like ask people about like what money stuff is going on if they want to tell me. And that always seems to kind of shock them. I'm like, I'm sorry, did you know who you were coming up to here? I'm not like, tell me your bank account balance. I'm just like, hey, what money stuff are you working on right now? And they'll usually tell me I'm saving up for a house and paying off debt, that kind of thing. And it's a fun conversation, usually in grocery stores.
I bet.
I've gotten recognized mostly in grocery stores, and I always like have to do a quick check on my cart to make sure there's nothing like embarrassing in there.
Yeah. That's too funny. Yeah, they're like, hey, budget girl. You're like, hey, what's going on in your money world? And they're like, I just wanted to say hi. I didn't think you were going to ask me a money question.
I've gotten that before too. I'm just like, I just wanted to say hi, bye. Like, sorry.
Awkward. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here and talk about Mr. Dave Ramsey, if that's cool with everyone. May I?
It's cool with me.
All right. Well, I think I originally found your page when you did your video about Dave Ramsey a little while ago, if I believe my memory correctly. But, we used to follow Dave Ramsey like hardcore followers, and we switched gears late 2020 when we realized we just didn't really like him very much as a person. And then we started really uncovering a lot of the
inequities.
Yes. And all of this, there was just a lot there.
Not nice stuff.
Yeah. And so then we switched gears very quickly into like, okay, now we really don't like this guy. And I started seeing the whole finance world on Instagram opening up about the fact that they also didn't like him. And I'm like, wait, this whole time, were you guys just like not telling me? Anyway, so how has that shift for you? Like following him, I believe you did it at Free Scream, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then now you don't follow him. So can you tell me how that path was for you?
Sure. So I started out with the Dave Ramsey method. I think the method has some really good virtues of like the baby step system of just save $1,000, then pay off your debt, smallest to large. It was bite sizable that me, even in an unemployment and super overwhelmed state, could be like, okay, I can do this, one foot in front of the other. And I, understood some of the I always felt like I didn't have to agree with every single thing he said, like the 401k match, now the credit cards. There are some things where it's like, okay, it just doesn't work for you. But I do think it's kind of been an open secret for a long time that Dave's fans in particular, and Dave himself, are completely unwilling to tolerate anyone who doesn't follow the plan exactly. And I think that's where a lot of the toxicity comes in, because, for you, maybe like you're a couple and you've got a bunch of kids and one of them has maybe some sort of medical issue, $1,000 isn't going to work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you try to say that in a Dave Ramsey group, they'll all but burn your house down and call you idiots and morons. And unfortunately, that does come from the top. And I was kind of like you. Over the years, I understand that the being screamed at works for some people. The tough love money advice works for some people. It'll shock their systems into being like, okay, no, you're right. I don't need to buy a $50,000 car if I make 20 grand a year. Being yelled at and being told you're being stupid might help somebody get shocked into realizing that those numbers don't exactly work.
Right.
But I think he's gotten worse a lot recently. I think it is problematic that he doesn't, I think there are some sexist issues that have come to light recently within his workplace, whether they are alleged or not. There are enough people that have come forward that I think it's impossible that the entire thing should not be believed. And just the way that he treats people both on the air and in his workplace, I just figured that I couldn't support that anymore. Not being someone who roots for people to do better with their money and to make a money plan that works for them. So I decided I wasn't going to be a Dave follower anymore. I think it happens to most people actually who get better with money. If they start off with Dave, they pay off their debt. And then when you build those skills, you start to learn about maybe FIRE, and you start to learn about investing, and you don't want to pay 5% to some mutual fund person to invest your money. And you start to realize, and you kind of graduate from Dave Ramsey. So I'm glad it's become a little bit more popular, I guess, to say like, he's not for me. If he's for you, cool. But just FYI, I don't like the way he treats people. And I like that it's become more to like, people have been doing this for years. The Why I Quit Following Dave Ramsey videos have been popular for years on YouTube. And most of it has been people kind of graduating from a really bad place with money and figuring out that there's more to it than the baby steps.
Yeah. I mean, we had the best followers, and once we spoke out against Dave, everyone was like, oh, thank God, you see the light. And I was like, wait, this whole time, you guys didn't want to tell us who this person was. But I don't know if we would have listened. I think we had to see what it really was to take the step back and be like, this is definitely not for me.
Yeah. And he's trained his followers to be pretty vicious.
Yeah.
Again, very defensive.
Anyone who doesn't. Like his groups, I've been kicked out of a Dave Ramsey group. Back when I was still following the plan, I didn't even say anything against it. I was just told I didn't engage enough. Like his followers are bananas.
Yeah.
A lot of them who used to follow me left and said some very bad things about me when I said I wasn't going to follow that plan anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's up for them. I know that for us, during the pandemic, I was working as a teacher and I was serving tables as well, still to get out of debt. And he had made a comment about low wage workers at an event that they were hosting, and he called them idiots or losers or something. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm following your plan. You told me I need to get a second job and not go out to eat or to a restaurant unless I'm working there. Yet you're calling minimum wage workers losers. It just felt so backwards. And then we start to see a bunch of other stuff that came out post-COVID and some of the racial and gender inequities within his company. And it was just okay, no, there's too many brilliant content creators on Instagram and elsewhere where we can learn money information from, that we don't need to be binging your podcast and your content anymore.
Yeah.
I think that was one of my biggest realizations, that it doesn't have to just be Dave Ramsey. I started to look at other people and watch YouTube videos of different finance people. I never would have just started searching people on YouTube, random everyday people like us now creating content for other people to consume, when like we all have something that we can teach people, right? And we can all learn from each other. But it was for a long time just like this one person, and if it wasn't him, it was very culty.
Yeah, David's done a really excellent job of convincing people that his way is the only way.
Yes.
And he's been in the space a really long time. Like I said, back when I started on YouTube 7 years ago, there were only like 3 other people talking about their own personal money on YouTube channels. Now there are thousands and thousands and thousands. You can find someone that's similar enough to you that you can try to learn from. But I also think this should be a lesson in checking your sources and being accountable to yourself, that you're not only following one person's advice. There's a problem with that. You shouldn't be blindly following anyone when it comes to your money, because they're not going to come save you if you make a bad decision.
Yes.
So I think it's an excellent lesson to take away from anyone who is kind of seeing the light on that, of don't just listen to me. Absolutely freaking don't just listen to me. You need to, this is your personal finance journey. You need to make sure that what you're doing works for you. Do not just take my advice at face value. Check it. Check it against other people. Check it against yourself. Be better. You can do better.
Yeah. And there's so many, like you said, there's so many content creators that probably can fill into the gaps of what you're needing in different areas of your life. And we've, as we talk with finance content creators that have come on the podcast, we say like there's so much wealth to go around. There's so much knowledge to be shared. Somebody else's success or knowledge base doesn't like detract from your own. Like there's no reason to not share this knowledge and to reach out to as many resources as possible, because we had Chloe Daniels from Clobear Money Coach on yesterday, and I think the way she said it was great. A rising tide lifts all ships. And that's really the important thing. And you're so right. If you're just blindly following one person, whether it's Dave or somebody else, you really want to check that against some other ideas as well, even if it's the right thing. Just to be like, hey, all of these brilliant human beings that I subscribe to are all saying the same thing. It's probably a smart money move.
It still might not work for you, though.
Yeah.
Like, you still have to make sure it works for you. You are responsible for your own money at the end of every single day. So you need to be watching it and making sure, checking yourself and making sure that you're in the right headspace and that you're making good money decisions for you and your family. Even if every other personal finance content creator out there is telling you, no, this is the way to do it.
It's very personal. That's why it's personal finance. So, Sarah, where can our listeners find you and connect with you? I love your content, and I want them to go check it out as well.
I would be honored if they went and checked it out as well. So you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/budgetgirl. You can find me at budgetgirl.com, where I have a huge website full of free and great resources and articles on how to master your money and their budgets and all sorts of great things on there, all free. And you can also get me on any social media at Go Budget Girl. Though on TikTok, I'm just at Budget Girl. I did manage to secure that handle.
Nice.
Awesome.
Got in on TikTok early enough.
Not super active on TikTok, but there's some stuff there specifically on passive income building on it.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, very exciting.
All right. Well, this was so awesome. I'm so happy that you agreed to come onto our podcast, and I really hope that all of our listeners help get all of you guys, you toasties, need to get her to 100,000.
Yes. We'll be celebrating in solidarity in California once you get there.
I would love to have some toasties come join me. It's fun over here. We just talk money and help lift each other up to do better.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Sarah. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat again soon. All right, Toasties, I hope you enjoyed our interview with Budget Girl. I thought it was great getting to talk to her. She's so down to earth and so honest about finances and transparent just like we are. It's really cool to see others in this space that have those same values.
I agree, and I am so excited for all of you guys to go follow her. We need to get her to 100,000.
Yes, we got to get her to 100,000 on YouTube, and then also make sure you check out her Etsy if you're somebody that's interested in maybe one of her net worth trackers or a budget. She's got some cool stuff on there, and it's all under $10. So the cost of like a couple Starbucks drinks, and you're managing your money like a rock star.
Yes, and you're helping a creator.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are so thankful to be part of this community and so grateful to have had this conversation with you. Happy budgeting.
You've got this, Toasties.
Thanks for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend that you're comfortable having money talks with. And if you don't mind, we'd love if you could rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you're in need of my support as a financial coach, message me on Instagram. I'd love to help in any way that I can. Until next time.